Hi everyone, welcome to our channel. If you love emotional stories with unexpected twists, you're in the right place. Before we dive into today's powerful tale, don't forget to subscribe, hit the notification bell, and give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed. Now, grab a drink, get comfortable, and let the story begin. The empty apartment echoed with the hum of the washing machine and the whistling wind outside the window. Natalie Brooks sat curled up on her old fabric chair, clutching a lukewarm cup of tea. Beside her lay a pale blue folder, the official divorce papers, signed exactly 7 days ago. 10 years of marriage. 10 years of building this home together, from bare floors to the small herb pots on the balcony. And Adam had wiped it all away with just 3 sentences. I don't feel anything anymore. We should end this. Natalie didn't cry. At least not anymore. Not after 3 sleepless nights. She was about to close the folder when her phone vibrated. A message from an old college friend. OMG, Nat, have you seen this? Adam just got married. Look at the bride. She tapped the link. The first photo that appeared made Natalie's heart skip a beat. Adam, still in his favorite gray suit, stood beside a woman of impossible beauty. Flawless skin, sharp blue eyes, high cheekbones, and a smile too perfect to be real. Every feature was strikingly symmetrical, almost sculpted. The flashlights danced across her white lace wedding gown like it was a runway, not a ceremony. Natalie stared in shock. Just 1 week after the divorce. 1 week. She zoomed in, scanning every detail. The comments section was blowing up. Absolute goddess. Adam upgraded hard. Hottest couple this month. The sting of anger rose, but it was quickly replaced by something stronger, dread. There was something about the bride's face, uncannily familiar. Natalie couldn't tear her eyes away from the woman's gaze, arrogant, ice-cold, and hauntingly recognizable. Then a memory hit her, the back row of 12A homeroom, senior year of high school. A girl who always sat with her head down, hair unkempt, skin covered in acne. Bullied by the boys, laughed at by the girls. And Natalie, she looked away, silent. Claire Rivers. The name thundered in her head like a curse. It couldn't be. Claire had vanished mid-year. No one knew why. Some said depression. Others, a transfer. No one really cared. Natalie jumped up and pulled out an old yearbook from her bookshelf. She flipped to the senior page of 12. Dozens of faces frozen in 4 smiles. Her fingers scanned quickly to find Claire Rivers. There she was, round face, sad eyes, limp bangs, and a weak chin. Then she placed that photo next to the image of Victoria Lane, Adam's new wife. The same eyes. It was her. It had to be her. Chills ran down Natalie's spine. She rushed to Google and typed Victoria Lane. Dozens of articles popped up. The new beauty icon in media. Young CEO behind Renova Cosmetics. From nobody to goddess, a plastic surgery journey. Natalie devoured every word, eyes widening when she read. Victoria Lane, formerly known as Claire R., prefers to keep her past private. Her lungs tightened. It wasn't just that she married Adam. Claire, now Victoria, had returned with a new face, a new life, and a very old vendetta. And the plan was already in motion. The next day, Natalie met up with Cynthia, her best friend from college, now an investigative journalist. In a quiet corner of a small cafe, Natalie shared everything she had found. Cynthia read through it all, eyes narrowing with every line. Then she looked up. If she really is Claire, then this isn't fate. This is revenge. Natalie said nothing. She once thought the divorce was the end. But now, she realized it was only the opening move. The rage she had suppressed for a week now boiled over. Not because she lost Adam, but because she was being drawn into a chess game that had been strategized years ago. And if she didn't act, she would be the first pawn to fall. The dim cafe lights cast long shadows across Cynthia's notebook as she scribbled names, dates, and cross-references. Natalie sat across from her, silent, watching the ink glide across the page like a scalpel carving in a flesh, clean, deliberate, merciless. Claire Rivers, now known as Victoria Lane, once a ghost in the back of a high school classroom. now a flawless bride in designer lace. Cynthia pushed her glasses up and leaned back. She completely erased herself, she muttered. There's no digital footprint of Claire Rivers after 2007. No college photos, no alumni mentions, no medical records under that name. Natalie swallowed hard. So, where did she go? Cynthia flipped her laptop around and opened a secure tab. I pulled some buried public records under variations of her name. Get this, right after she vanished from school, there's a file from a psychiatric facility in Oregon. A minor admitted under emergency guardianship. Name listed as CR. Psych ward. Natalie whispered. Severe depression, social withdrawal, possible suicidal ideation. Cynthia read from the screen. Discharged after a year. No follow-up school records. Natalie felt sick. She remembered that year. How Claire had stopped showing up after winter break. Everyone said she was just too ugly, too awkward, too weird to handle high school. But no one asked what happened to her. They just laughed, including Natalie. So what did she do after? Natalie asked, voice tight. Plastic surgery. A lot of it. Cynthia brought up another article. She enrolled in a community college under a different name. Took on student loans. Paid for small cosmetic procedures. Chin reshaping, acne scarring, eyelid correction. Then, out of nowhere, she disappears again. Re-emerges 4 years later in Los Angeles as Victoria Lane. New face, new accent, new social media, new life. Natalie blinked, stunned. The Victoria she'd seen online didn't even wear the past like a shadow. She was loud, bright, flawless, almost ethereal. The perfect modern woman, beautiful, successful, admired. A self-made myth. She worked in PR, Cynthia continued. Fast rise. Founded Renova, a skincare brand targeting post-surgery patients. Brilliant marketing, rebirth through skin, she called it. And Adam. Natalie asked, how did she meet him? Cynthia paused. It gets worse. She clicked on a photo from 2 years ago, a charity gala hosted by Adam's architecture firm. There in the background, almost invisible to the eye, stood Victoria in a black cocktail dress, her eyes locked onto Adam from across the room. She didn't just meet him, Cynthia said quietly. She targeted him. Natalie stared at the screen. It was clear now. Claire hadn't stumbled into Adam's life. She had stepped in like a trained actress walking onto a stage built just for her. Wait, Natalie said suddenly, heart racing. That gala, I remember that night. Adam came home late. Said some girl kept asking about his work, his marriage, like she was trying to network. He laughed it off. Cynthia gave her a pointed look. Not networking. Profiling. She studied him. Found your weak points. Then waited. Natalie's fingers trembled as she reached for her tea, now stone cold. She didn't just want him. She wanted everything I ever had. Not just wanted, Cynthia said. Planned. Years in the making. Back at home, Natalie lay awake that night, scrolling through photos of Adam and Victoria's wedding. Every image felt like a slap. The golden venue, the elaborate cake, the glowing guests. And her. Always her. Victoria Lane, beaming like a queen in stolen light. But what Natalie couldn't unsee were the eyes. Not soft or joyful, but sharp, calculating. Every smile seemed to mask a smirk. Every hand-holding pose felt posed. She found a video clip from a guest's phone. The moment Adam kissed Victoria at the altar. Most people would have closed their eyes, leaned in with affection. But Victoria? She opened her eyes, stared straight ahead, straight into the camera. Natalie paused the frame. Her own reflection trembled on the screen. She was looking at me, Natalie whispered. The next morning, a package arrived on Natalie's doorstep. No return address. No sender's name. Inside was a small, flat box wrapped in pale pink ribbon. Her breath caught in her throat as she opened it. Inside was a photo. A printed snapshot from senior year, the classroom. Claire in the back row. Natalie 2 seats ahead. The angle was odd, taken from someone's desk like a hidden camera. Attached was a note. Some memories take longer to heal than scars. But mine were never meant to heal. Oof. Natalie's hands clenched around the paper. Her chest burned with shame, confusion, fury. This wasn't just a game. It was a war. And Victoria wasn't after Adam. She was after her legacy, her past, her peace. Natalie stood up, heart pounding. There would be no ignoring this. No quiet forgiveness. This was no longer about losing a man. It was about losing herself. And she wasn't going to let that happen. Not this time. It started with an invitation. A white, embossed card delivered to Natalie's mailbox, slipped inside a gold-trimmed envelope. No name on the sender, but the message was unmistakable. You are cordially invited to the Renova Foundation Gala, a celebration of women's resilience. Hosted by Victoria Lane. Black tie required. Natalie stared at the card for a full minute before setting it down like it might bite her. Cynthia didn't even try to hide her disgust. It's bait, she said, pacing across Natalie's kitchen. She's daring you to show up. She wants a reaction, Natalie agreed. She wants to see what I'll do. Then don't give it to her. But Natalie's jaw tightened. No, I'll go. Cynthia spun around. Are you crazy? I need to see her. Face to face. I need to look her in the eye and know exactly what I'm dealing with. Cynthia hesitated, then sighed. Fine, but I'm coming with you. You're not walking into that lion's den alone. The Renova Gala was held in the Crystal Pavilion downtown. Glass walls, vaulted ceilings, and enough lighting to make every wrinkle vanish. Inside, the air shimmered with perfume, designer labels, and a faint metallic hum of money. Natalie entered in a simple black gown. No makeup except mascara. No jewelry except her wedding band, still worn on her right hand, a quiet rebellion against being erased. Heads turned, not because she was the most glamorous woman in the room, but because she was the ex-wife. Whispers trailed her like perfume. That's her. The first Mrs. Brooks. Did you see Victoria's new post? She called this her true beginning. Natalie kept walking, spine straight. Cynthia hovered nearby, phone ready, eyes sharp. Then she saw her. Victoria Lane stood under a chandelier made of hand-blown crystal, surrounded by donors and press. She wore a silver satin dress that looked poured onto her body. Every inch of her gleamed, skin, teeth, hair, eyes. She noticed Natalie almost instantly and smiled. A slow, calculated smile. Then, to everyone's shock, she stepped forward and raised a glass. Everyone, Victoria called out, voice warm and regal. I'd like to recognize someone very special joining us tonight. Natalie froze. Please welcome Natalie Brooks, a teacher, an artist, and someone who, unknowingly, helped shape my journey. Polite claps. A few confused stares. Natalie felt her stomach twist. Victoria continued. In high school, we shared a classroom. She may not remember me, but I remember her. I remember how graceful she was, how admired, how perfect, and I thought, maybe one day, I could be a little bit like her. The room chuckled. Natalie's face burned. Her fists clenched at her sides. Then the screens lit up. Gigantic panels along the wall began projecting a video, yearbook footage, grainy clips from high school days. And then one particular scene, a girl in the back row, alone, silent. Her chair gets yanked from beneath her by a cruel boy. She crashes to the floor. Laughter erupts, and then the camera pans to Natalie, laughing. The room fell silent. Natalie's chest tightened. Her laugh had been awkward, nervous. She hadn't pulled the prank. She hadn't meant to hurt anyone. But on screen, she looked like every other cruel girl. I didn't, she began, but the footage rolled on. More clips. Claire Rivers with books spilled across the floor. Claire with acne scars. Claire being passed over for group projects. Always the same shot. Natalie in the frame, doing nothing. The final frame? A yearbook photo. Claire's name circled in red. Underneath. Forgotten, but not gone. When the lights came back on, Victoria stood center stage, a tear shimmering in her eye. Some scars fade, she said softly. Others become our strength. Thunderous applause. Natalie stood frozen, humiliated, framed. She hadn't done those things. Not most of them, but she hadn't stopped them either. The crowd didn't care. All they saw was a villain from someone else's origin story. Outside, Natalie sat in the back of Cynthia's car, shaking. She's a genius, Cynthia muttered. This isn't revenge, it's theater. She edited those clips, Natalie whispered. Cut out context. built a narrative. She made you her antagonist. Natalie leaned her head against the window. I was a coward, CYN. I didn't stand up for her. I just kept my head down and let it happen. That doesn't make you evil. No, Natalie said bitterly. But it makes me useful. A symbol. A stepping stone. Cynthia hesitated. We need to fight back. With what? Cynthia reached into her bag and pulled out a small USB stick. With this. Natalie frowned. What is it? Claire's medical history. Leaked from one of the clinics she used overseas. Multiple botched surgeries. Facial reconstruction. Psychological evaluations. And one particular record from a private investigator she hired 10 years ago, tracking Adam's movements while he was still your husband. Natalie looked at the drive, stunned. You stole this. I borrowed it. Temporarily. I have sources. Natalie stared at the USB like it was a loaded weapon. If I use this, I'm no better than her. No, Cynthia said. You're not using it to destroy her. You're using it to survive. Natalie didn't respond, because deep down, she wasn't sure anymore if she wanted survival or vengeance. Natalie didn't sleep that night. She sat at her kitchen table, staring at the USB drive Cynthia had handed her hours earlier. Its black plastic surface gleamed under the lamplight like a secret begging to be unleashed. One click, one file, and she could ruin Victoria Lane. But what then? Natalie's phone buzzed, an unknown number. A text popped up. You looked beautiful last night. I'm glad you came. Some truths are better seen on a big screen. Natalie's stomach turned. She gripped the USB tighter, her thumb hovering over the trackpad. And then she pushed it aside. Not yet. The next day, Cynthia called with something new. I found her mother. Natalie blinked. Victoria's? Well, Claire's. Her real name is still listed on a property deed in Oregon. I called, posed as a reporter writing a story on inspirational women from the past. She cracked fast. Natalie's throat tightened. What did she say? That Claire, Victoria, disappeared after a breakdown at age 17. Was found in the woods 3 days later, half-starved. Her mother admitted she was a difficult child. When I asked what happened to Claire's father, she went silent. Natalie froze. Cynthia spoke carefully. Claire was removed from the home. Abuse was suspected, never proven. A chill swept over Natalie's spine. So all that pain, she whispered, it didn't start with school. No, Cynthia said. School was just the overflow. And you, unwittingly, became the face of that cruelty. Natalie closed her eyes. Images flooded back, Claire flinching when boys walked too close, clutching her sleeves, skipping showers. They thought she was weird. They never asked why. Later that afternoon, Natalie wandered into a small gallery near her apartment. It was nearly empty, just a couple of students sketching by the windows. She walked past oil paintings, charcoal portraits, sculptures with cracked edges, until she saw it. A photograph. It was blurry, almost distorted, but unmistakable. A teenage girl sitting on a toilet lid in a public bathroom, arms hugging her knees, face streaked with tears. A broken pair of glasses lay beside her. On the wall behind her, scrawled in Sharpie, were the words, Claire the Creature. Natalie's breath caught. A plaque read, captured at Franklin High, 2007. Artist unknown. Donated anonymously. This was never revenge for a stolen boyfriend. This was reclamation. Claire, Victoria, was turning her scars into weapons. Her pain into performance. And Natalie was just one character in a much grander script. That night, Natalie made a decision. She messaged Cynthia. Let's meet her. No more hiding. Cynthia didn't argue. Tomorrow. Her office. I've already arranged it. Victoria Lane's private office towered above the city like a glass knife. Renova's logo shimmered in gold behind the reception desk. Every surface gleamed. They were ushered upstairs by an assistant who smiled like she'd been trained to do so in war. Victoria stood as they entered, flawless in a white blouse and emerald skirt, her hair in soft waves. She didn't look surprised. I was wondering how long it would take, she said smoothly. Thea, no, Natalie Diplaïv. We're not here for pleasantries. Victoria tilted her head, amused. Then let's get to the point. Natalie stepped forward. Why me? Why him? Why now? Victoria's smile never faded. Why not, she said. You were the golden girl, the untouchable one, the kind of girl who didn't even have to be cruel to cause pain, because your silence was louder than any insult. I was 17, Natalie said quietly. So was I, Victoria shot back. And I was bleeding every day from wounds no one could see. You don't get to pretend you didn't play a role. Maybe you weren't the worst, but you stood by. And in high school, that's the same as pushing. Silence. Then Cynthia said, "Is that why you married Adam?" To complete the performance. Victoria turned, walking to the window. I didn't marry Adam. I consumed him. Every ounce of attention he gave you, I wanted it. Every touch, every compliment. I wanted it filtered through my face. The new one, the chosen one. Why not confront me? Natalie asked. Face to face back then. Because I didn't want pity. I wanted power. And now, she turned back, her voice like silk over a blade. I have it. Natalie looked at her, not with hate, but sorrow. You don't, she said. You think you won, but all I see is someone still stuck in that bathroom stall, begging to be noticed. Victoria's smile cracked just barely. You don't get to psychoanalyze me, she hissed. I'm not, Natalie said. I'm just letting you know. You didn't erase Claire. You built your entire empire on her ghost. Victoria stepped forward, fury flickering in her eyes. Don't mistake survival for obsession. I've survived more than you could imagine. And still, Natalie said softly, you couldn't move on without destroying me. Back outside, Cynthia exhaled hard. That was reckless. No, Natalie said. That was necessary. Now what? Natalie paused, then looked out at the skyline. Now, I tell my story, not hers. The next day, Natalie posted a blog entry titled The Silence I Regret. It wasn't defensive. It wasn't vengeful. It was a confession. She talked about Claire, about the jokes she laughed at, the moments she looked away, the way she failed to speak up. She included that bathroom photo and wrote, I didn't write those words on the wall, but I didn't clean them off either. And silence, too, is a kind of cruelty. The post went viral overnight. Thousands shared their own stories, of classmates forgotten, of bullies unchecked. Some defended Natalie. Others questioned her motives. But the message was clear. Victoria no longer controlled the narrative. The gallery was already half full when Natalie arrived. The exhibition was titled Unspoken, a collection of Natalie's personal pieces, portraits of silence, pain, and memory. But one painting had been kept hidden until tonight. The final piece, the one no one, not even Cynthia, had seen. Natalie walked slowly through the crowd. Some recognized her, the ex-wife, the teacher, the woman from that blog. Some whispered. Others offered quiet nods of solidarity. None of it mattered. This was not about them. The final portrait was veiled behind dark velvet in the center of the room. A sign read, to be unveiled at 8 p.m. Cynthia found her near the wine table. Are you sure about this? She asked. Natalie nodded. Yes, I'm not hiding anymore. At exactly 8 p.m., the lights dimmed. A spotlight fell onto the painting. Natalie stepped up to the podium. Thank you for being here tonight. This final piece is not a revenge. It's not a confrontation. It's a release. It's called The Girl in the Mirror. She pulled the velvet cloth away. The room fell into stunned silence. On the canvas was a girl, barefaced, unfiltered, seated in front of a mirror cracked down the middle. One side of the reflection showed a teenager, pale and frightened, her face scarred by acne and bruises, eyes red from crying. The other side? A glamorous woman, but her eyes were hollow, her mouth bent in a perfect smile, but it was bleeding at the edges. And in the center, at the base of the mirror, a scalpel lay on the vanity. Between them, below the painting, a plaque read, forged by pain, framed by silence, defined by neither, no name, no blum, only truth. And then she appeared. Victoria Lane stood at the back of the crowd, dressed in black, lips painted the color of dried roses. Her hands were folded in front of her, and for once, there was no camera, no assistant, no spotlight. Just her, Claire, the girl in the mirror. Her expression didn't change as she stepped closer. People parted like shadows, sensing tension they couldn't name. When she stood in front of the painting, she stared for a long time. Then she turned to Natalie and whispered, so only she could hear. "You win." Natalie looked at her calmly. It was never a game. Victoria's smile faltered. Her eyes glistened, but no tears fell. "You painted me as broken," she said. "Again." "No," Natalie said. "I painted both of us." Victoria hesitative. For a moment, something unspoken passed between them. Grief, maybe, or the terrible, irreversible knowledge that neither could ever go back. Then she turned and walked out. No dramatic exit. No applause. Just footsteps fading into the dark. Weeks passed. The painting made headlines. Some praised its brutal honesty. Others debated whether it was too raw, too personal. But Natalie refused interviews. She declined exhibitions. She went quiet again, but this time not out of shame, out of peace. She received an anonymous envelope one morning. No name, just a note inside, handwritten in clean, careful cursive. "I'm moved. I'm changing my name again. Thank you for the mirror." Attached was a photo. A little girl with pigtails, grinning shyly, holding the hand of a woman with no makeup, no filters. "Claire," smiling. "Truly." Adam called once. He left a voicemail. I didn't know any of it. I was stupid. I was blind. "I'm sorry. Netsuavunskabli." She never returned the call. Not out of spite, but because the Natalie who might have needed that apology no longer existed. One afternoon, Natalie walked into her art studio, sunlight flooding the floor. In the corner sat a blank canvas. She stared at it, then picked up a brush. Epilogue. They say revenge is loud, messy, explosive, cinematic. But this one wasn't. It was quiet, intimate, layered in silence, carved with memory. And perhaps that's why it will never be forgotten. Because sometimes the most devastating retribution isn't destruction. It's reflection.